back here with us on Overdrive. Now, Shumi has been working way too hard, and after months of listening to him go on and on about it, we decided to send our motorcycle man on a self-drive trip to New South Wales, Australia. Take a look.
There's 3 continents I haven't been on. There's Africa, which has always been a bridge too far. There's Antarctica, which is way too cold. And there's Australia, which has always attracted me, but I've never really had the chance. Well, it's time to take that off the bucket list because I am in Australia. Those behind me are the Blue Mountains, and you can see that they are actually blue. I've got a rented car. I've got a week to myself. Let's see what this week brings. My trip began, as all journeys to Australia appear to, with a long flight. Thankfully, Malaysia Airlines splits the distance neatly. I was expecting to be a lot more tired, but they took such good care of us that Suresh and I landed feeling chipper and ready to go. As soon as we landed, I made a beeline for the Hertz counter at the Sydney airport to pick up the SUV we had reserved earlier. The paperwork took mere moments, and literally minutes later, we were driving ourselves to Bondi Beach, where the bluest of blue oceans waited for us. Bondi Beach is very close to Sydney, and it's among the world's most famous beaches. You know this. I decided to spare you my buff beach body, and instead we went to the famous Iceberg Terrace Cafe for a hearty, healthy breakfast. It's a beautiful place, really. The view of the beach and the famous ocean water swimming pool, it's just simply amazing. I simply couldn't have picked a better jumping off point into New South Wales. And I was very excited too, because our next destination was the world famous Blue Mountains. And we weren't going there in the back of a bus with 48 strangers either. The fear when it comes to driving outside of India always is, it's an unfamiliar environment and how will I cope and will I understand the roads, etc. And in that sense, I think Australia is easy because there aren't that many cars on the road. They do drive on the same side as us. I guess the politically correct way to say that is we both drive on the same side of the road. And in that sense, if you were to start driving in a country outside of India, this might be actually a good place to start. The beautiful Blue Mountains really are blue. We learned that the evaporating oil from the eucalyptus trees in the heat of the day causes the dramatic blue tinge that really is spellbinding. I thought it was just the British colonials looking at the blue shapes of the distant mountains and running out of naming imagination. Turns out, I was wrong for once. To learn more about the history of the area, we headed to Scenic World in Katoomba, one of Australia's most popular tourist destinations. Yeah, that particular attribute usually doesn't excite me either, but I was about to be proven wrong once more. You really should come to Scenic World for 3 reasons. They have a cable car. The wires you can see behind me. They have a second cable car that climbs out of the valley and onto the top, which also is very nice. But the highlight for me was the railway train. It's a small train that used to carry coal up the mountain, and now it carries people up and down the mountain. And what is interesting about it is that literally drops vertically down the mountain. It's only 52 degrees at the steepest, but it feels like it's just being dropped down the mountain, and it's not very fast. So the sensations that you get on the train are very interesting. So if you're in the Blue Mountains area, if you're around the Katoomba area, we're just a few hours out of Sydney, I think 2 hours out of Sydney, should come to Scenic World. What I really enjoyed about Katoomba was how it blends the enjoyment aspect of the train or cable car with a subtle but informative lesson on the history of the Blue Mountains. But I wanted to know more about the place. I happen to be a bit of a nature and wildlife buff, so that's what we decided to seek out. So the first day in Australia has been really fun, but I'm really looking forward to tomorrow because on the agenda tomorrow is early morning breakfast with kangaroos. And I'm telling you, there's nobody on earth who you say that to and they're not happy to hear it. But that was the next day. As the sun sank towards the horizon, we made our way to a lookout which gives a terrific view of the single most famous set of hills in the Blue Mountains, the legendary Three Sisters. We watched the bright yellow of the sun turn into a deeper and deeper red as our first glorious day in New South Wales came to a fine end. They tell us that if you want to learn about the Blue Mountains, you go straight to Tim Tranner. Tim wears many hats including wildlife and bush rescue work. But on non-action mornings, like the one with us, he organizes excursions into the Blue Mountains, showing you trees and plants dating back millions of years, explaining the history of the place and why this area is listed as a World Heritage Site. It all ends in a picnic breakfast where wild kangaroos hop not far away from you, and it's an amazingly informative and serene morning, and it's something that I was really happy I did.
Here autumn turns up, the leaves stay on, the bark falls off, so that's a unique asset that you can see and understand. And then as a environment, you've got an area as one of the only areas in the world where we don't smell flowers, we smell leaves. So smelling the oil from the leaves is a rich experience. And then we're the only area in the world that has full year-round flowering as a dominant piece of the environment puzzle. So you get to see flowers in the middle of winter when it's snowing. Lots of animals are different. We can drive into an area like this and see kangaroos hopping around just freely in the wild.
After the animals, it was now time for the plants. Because the evolution of Australia is so different from the rest of the world, the plants and animals here just don't match what we see in any of the other continents on Earth. And now we're on our way to the Mount Toma Botanical Gardens, where we'll see the plant side of this. The botanical gardens, of course, not only have that, they also have small sections which show you other ecosystems, like for example a rainforest, so that natives, Australians who come to that place can get a sense of what other places in the world are like. The botanical gardens are huge, and while you think walking around looking at plants is boring, the gardens are incredibly beautiful. Their cafe served us a quick but super delicious meal while we looked out on a view where my personal highlight was the silhouette of a mountain 200 kilometers away. And now it was time to leave this beautiful World Heritage Wonderland where I could have spent a week and not seen and done enough, and changed the pace. Next up was Hunter Valley, the home of wine and fine foods. But that's after the break. Welcome back. We arrived at our hotel for the night, the Crown Plaza Hunter Valley. I'd love to tell you that jet lag was catching up, but I was expecting an early morning. And I was excited. But why should I explain it? I'd rather you took a look for yourself. This is the morning that I was most excited about in the whole of our week in Australia, and that was a hot air balloon. First thing in the morning, before sunrise, see the sun rise up, and we're over Hunter Valley, and I have to say, it looks beautiful on the ground, but it's even better from the air. Hunter Valley is beautiful on the ground, but it is spectacular from the air. Balloon Aloft's ride is not cheap, but if there was ever an experience that tells you that the best things in life aren't free, the sunrise ride and champagne breakfast has to be it. I, of course, skipped the bubbly because I was driving us to a vineyard to meet Keith Tulloch, one of Hunter Valley's oldest, most famous winemakers.
Well, my family moved to the Hunter Valley in 1839. Started winemaking in 1896, so I'm a fourth generation wine man here. So I guess it's fair to say that I know this area intimately. I know the ground, I know the character of the land, I know the style of wine that's classic, that makes the Hunter Valley into such an important area for producing world-class wines from our district. So concentrating on those varieties, Semillon in particular and fine dry white, and Shiraz with the red, makes beautiful, world-class wine. That's what people see when they visit here. So very respectfully focused on the pedigree of the area and its history of the area to make wines that are truly great.
We roamed the beautiful Hunter Valley for most of the day, tasting some amazing cheeses and marveling at the amazing scenery on the undulating land, its organic curves contrasting sharply with the neatly ordered rows of grapes when you crossed a vineyard. And then we headed to our next destination. We'd seen the mountains, we'd been in the valley, and now it was time to meet the ocean. What a wonderful day. It began with a sunrise in a hot air balloon. We met Keith Tulloch, whose passion for his wines is just incredible to listen to. And we're going to round that nice day off. We're in Port Stephens now. That's the best restaurant there is. And we're going to have absolutely amazing food tonight. The Little Beach Boathouse doesn't strike you as a special place, but it is. I got to taste some of the best seafood I've ever had, and since I was done driving for the day, I finally got to taste the famed Keith Tulloch Semillon. Welcome to Port Stephens. This is Nelson Bay. The bay here is bigger even than the Sydney Harbour, and there's a lot of stuff to do here. You can do mild things like walk around in the forest, or you can do the fun things like rent an ATV and drive around on the beach. What we have on our agenda are two very special things. First, we go dolphin watching. We'd go watching whales as well, except it's not whale season. And after that, two very experienced gentlemen will take us for a tour of the sands on ATVs. Dolphin watching is such fun. We're on the MV Spirit, a relatively small boat belonging to the Tamboy Queen Cruises. We spent a beautiful morning feeling the spray and the salty breeze before we spotted the wild dolphins. The mum and her 4-month-old baby swimming about is a sight I'll never forget. In fact, if we'd come at a different time of the year, we'd get to whale watch too. At this point, it had been too long without a set of handlebars and I was feeling the withdrawal symptoms. So we decided to scratch that itch next. So we've driven the car, we've sat in someone's boat, and we thought it was time to turn the fun up a little bit. So we've got ourselves some ATVs and we're sitting here. This is the biggest single moving sand mass in the east coast of Australia, in the whole of this area. This is the biggest one. And what that means is that if you were to do absolutely nothing and just stay here, in 100 years, we'd be somewhere else. But let's keep that thought in our heads and let's get the fun started.
No skills needed at all. We will definitely teach you how to ride these bikes. It's very easy, just a matter of a few safety instructions and you're on your way. We'll definitely give you a test ride if you are very nervous. We've got a custom-made Hummer. We can bring the Hummer along. We can get the family members that can't ride the ATVs in the Hummer. We'll definitely meet out here on the dunes. We can do some sandboarding together.
Wow, that was so much fun! Scott and Russ finally yanked us off the ATVs, and that meant that the next day was going to be our last one in New South Wales, Australia. Time flies when you're having fun, and I desperately wished it didn't. Next up, we're headed to the Australian Reptile Park, where there's a whole bunch of Australian animals who've never met Indians like us before. The Australian Reptile Park is a must-do, and that's because its purpose is different from a regular wildlife sanctuary. While they do other things, a big part of the program is to have people get up close with animals, to lose their fear a little bit. It has a central area where kangaroos, emus, geese and more roam freely and you can get very close to them. And I'll tell you this, rubbing a koala's fur while you see that sense of utter, almost sleepy peace in his eyes is deeply satisfying.
So you can see here I've got a children's python and behind me I've got a large saltwater crocodile. His name's Elvis. You get nice up close with the animals at the park here. You get to actually touch them and hold them and loads of fun. We've got wildlife shows that run daily also, and you can have your photo taken with these cool little guys.
Well, it was nearly time to go home. Driving ourselves around, making our own plans and schedules is perhaps the most satisfying way to do a holiday. And we've loved being out and about in New South Wales, Australia in our Hertz SUV. As we learnt along the way, we've just about scratched the surface and there is so much to do here. But for us, the next and last item on the agenda was to head back into Sydney, see the sunset over the famed Opera House once more, and then pack our bags and head home to Mumbai. So this is where it comes to an end. We're in the capital of New South Wales, Sydney. I don't have to tell you that, you can see that I'm in Sydney. We've had an amazing time, and if I were to pick a highlight of the trip, I wouldn't be able to because it was all so good. The only thing I'd wish for is a lot more time here.
Wow, that looked like a lot of fun. In fact, I doubt Shumi has any cause to complain and I don't think he needs a vacation anytime soon. It's time for us to bid farewell to you on this week's episode of Overdrive, but do stay in touch with the team through Facebook and Twitter, and do not forget to check out our latest videos on our YouTube channel. Until next week, it's goodbye.